everyone. I think we'll just wait for a couple more minutes, maybe until 6:05. Shraddha, is that okay?
That's fine with me. Yeah.
Great. So we'll give everyone a little bit of a chance to join, and yeah, then we'll get started. Okay, everyone, I think we can get started. If anyone's joining, they can continue joining throughout the hour. Welcome to our webinar series about potential majors that you can sort of explore when you're at university. I'm very excited to have Shraddha speak about international relations and law and politics, and sort of go into a little bit more of the sort of ins and outs of the three different programs. Just a little bit, I'll let Shraddha introduce herself, but she is a really amazing resource in this. She has worked with some really incredible students and gotten them where they want to go in these fields. So I hope you guys enjoyed the session today, and please make sure that you ask any questions you have so that we can support you guys throughout this. Thanks, and I'll let Shada take over.
Great. Thanks, Evita, for this introduction. Before I start, I would very much, encourage as many of you as possible to turn on your cameras. So I'm going to give it like 15, 30 seconds to see how many faces are visible to me. Okay, so that's not many. So I was hoping to have a conversation with the faces that I saw, but I want to start talking about how law, politics, international relations are very unknown subjects. I assume most of you are in 9th grade, 10th grade. You've done science, you've done maths, you've done English, but you've never come across subjects such as law, politics, international relations, right? So being in 9th and 10th grade, you all of a sudden have this huge looming decision ahead of you that what do you want to study and which subjects do you want to choose coming up to 11th and 12th, whether you're in the IB curriculum, you're in the Indian curriculum, you're choosing A levels. It's a difficult decision to make. So I'm going to try and elaborate and give you as much information as possible about these, kind of interdisciplinary subjects. There is a lot of overlap as well between law, politics, and international relations. Politics and international relations is typically often, offered in a combined major. It's a joint subject. So I'm going to talk about that. But one thing I do want to mention specifically in relation to law is that because law is so country specific, the focus of today's talk is going to be on the UK. However, if at the end of this, the webinar, if you have any questions about conversion, about practicing in a different country, then you can go ahead and ask me. So I'm hoping that's okay, and I will begin. Hold on. Okay, so can you see my screen? I'm sorry, I also have a bad throat. So, okay, so let's get started. So I want to start by talking about law, right? So what is law? And how do you know whether you want to study it or not? A little bit of background about myself is that I studied law and business many years ago as well. But how I came to the decision of studying law was by a process of elimination, right? So I looked at my subjects in 10th grade and I was like, I don't really enjoy maths. I'm not really too fond of science. I'm no good at art, but I am good at English. I am good at writing. But if I study English for 3 years, will I get bored? What career prospects are there for me after I do a degree in English? And that eventually led me to do a couple of career tests and brought me to law. So truly it was, process of elimination. And then that's where I was. So if you are in this dilemma and you're wondering whether you want to study law, some of the questions that you need to be asking yourself is, what is your motivation for studying law? And I would not be surprised if a lot of you came and told me that suits is what has inspired you to study law. So let me tell you right off the bat that the actual practice of law, this field, is nothing like what Suits portrays, okay? It is not that dynamic. It is not that, thrilling. It's a lot more reading. It's a lot more research. It is a lot more case study analysis. It's not, Harvey Specter and Mike Ross kind of just go off the books. That's not how it works. Okay, so that is something you need to be aware of because it catches a lot of students by surprise when they actually come to studying law. And then the next question, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, is which country do you want to practice being a lawyer? Because if you foresee yourself in the future in India, does it really make sense to go abroad and spend 3 to 5 years getting your law degree, practicing there, and then having to come back and give conversion exams? Right? So that is another question you should be thinking about as well when you're making this decision about whether you want to pursue law at the undergraduate level or not. Okay, so let me just briefly cover what law in the UK looks like. So what will you study? You'll be studying like core foundational subjects, legal principle, concepts and theories. They tell you how laws were created, different judicial systems, how they're applied in different contexts as well, the hierarchy of the courts, how are decisions made? Is there a jury system? Is it, common law? Is it case law? How does it work? There are 7 foundational subjects in the UK, which is contract, tort, criminal, law of equity and trusts, property law, European law, constitutional administrative law. So those are the core subjects that you will have to do over the 3 years that you're at university. But in addition to that, you are allowed to choose elective modules that interest you as well. So competition law, family law, environmental law. I remember my university offered Islamic law as well. So you truly can choose a wide range of subjects to kind of explore. And then hopefully that will help you decide what you would like to kind of concentrate in after you've graduated. So what are the career pathways? Obviously, you can be a corporate lawyer, a solicitor in the UK. There is a distinction between a solicitor and a barrister. A barrister, fights in court, litigates, whereas a solicitor is only usually working in a corporate law office directly with the client. Then a solicitor, if a matter needs to be litigated, then the solicitor will bring it to a barrister, and then the barrister is the person that will fight that matter in court. You can work in the public sector, you can do international law, alternative dispute resolution. As a private sector, you can be in a corporate company as an in-house counsel. You can go into academia, you can go into management, consulting. Just because you study law does not mean that you are restricted to being a lawyer. And at the same time, I will say, if you have not studied law, there are several quick and easy options to kind of go into the legal field afterwards. So if you're confused at the moment, you can pursue economics if that's more interesting to you, philosophy if that's more interesting to you, maybe biology, and then eventually do a conversion course and get your law degree in the UK anyway. And when it comes to the US, there is no possibility of studying law at the undergraduate level, and that is only done postgraduate. So that is not an issue there either. And of course, government and politics. So let's now talk about politics and international relations. I'm going to see if I can minimize this. Okay. So questions you need to ask yourself is, are you really interested in politics? And what do you understand by politics, right? Do you want to, look in depth behind like the global headlines that were in the news today and understand like, how did this come to be? What are the forces shaping today's world? How did this Russia-Ukraine war start? Why did it start? What are the motivations behind it? Why is India having so much trouble with Kashmir? And then also, like, are you passionate about conflict resolution? Because I think these are the kind of students that would naturally enjoy the study of politics and international relations. So ask yourself these questions. And if you don't have the answer, explore them. Do online courses, do some reading, and see that by doing so, is it something that kind of sparks your curiosity and your intellect, So in politics and international relations, what you basically study is political systems and theory. So different forms of government, a democracy, socialism, theocracy, totalitarianism, fascism. So those sort of political systems, the differences between them, how they've come to be developed the way they have, their structure, their function, their processes. And then international relations is obviously about the relationship between different countries, between state and non-state actors as well. And you use theoretical frameworks to kind of understand that. You, of course, examine the causes and consequences of international conflict, foreign policy decisions as well. And as a graduate, you could go become a diplomat, you could go into the foreign service, become an ambassador, you can work for international organizations such as the EU, the UN, the International Monetary Fund, the World Health Organization. You can be in the public sector, work for a think tank, a nonprofit, non-governmental organizations, research, you can become a journalist, go into academia again, and also you are able to work in the private sector as well. You can do consulting, you can work for an international business, you can focus on corporate social responsibility if that is something that you're passionate about. Okay, so having told you what the study of law, politics, and international relations is, the kind of student profile that that will work for both of these career prospects is very similar. So the kind of skills that you need to develop are, you need to be a critical thinker. You need to be able to be very good at research, doing research, writing long texts, long excerpts, analyzing texts, making a cohesive document of various factual scenarios that you've gotten, case study analysis as well. You need to be a good leader, of course. You also need to be able to work in a team when you're doing, a conflict resolution or, consensus building or, devising strategies and solutions. You will often find yourself, whether at a law firm or working as a diplomat or in the government, working in a team of people. So you need to be able to take initiative. You need to be able to take charge when it's required and be a leader. But at the same time, you need to know how to be open to ideas from others that you're working with in a collaborative manner. You need to be able to communicate very well. You need to be able to solve problems. You also would benefit from getting practical experience, whether it's at a law firm and you're learning how to draft contracts, or whether you're doing Model United Nations or anything similar in that way. You also need interdisciplinary knowledge. Now, both of these subjects, whether it's law, politics, and international relations, they do draw on knowledge from various different fields, whether it's economic policy that's affecting politics and international relations. You need to have knowledge of economics. Whether you are doing tax law, you need to have knowledge of maths. So, and in both these fields, if you want to do anything international, it would really benefit you, despite there being Google Translate and ChatGPT, to be proficient in a foreign language. So again, similarly, you will also need cross-cultural competence to be aware that there are cultural differences that kind of inform decisions. And that is why different countries will make different decisions based on their cultural values and ethos. And of course, you need to be ethically aware. You need to be thinking with a moral foundation in your reasoning. So how do you then build a competitive profile? Right? What are the kind of activities that you can do? To begin with, make sure that you choose academic subjects that develop, your critical thinking skills, your logical reasoning skills, your ability to analyze, as well as research. Research is a big part of politics, international relations, and law as well. So you would want to focus your subjects in the humanities. You want to do history, philosophy. If your school offers it, then politics or global politics. Those of you that are thinking of doing the IB, you will get the theory of knowledge as well, English literature. And as I mentioned before, mathematics may not seem directly relevant, but of course it's very important for things such as tax law. It is important in economics, in policy making, in financial decisions. Everything that a government may want to decide does rely on the skills, not directly related to math and numbers, but at least the problem solving skills that you get from it. And then proficiency in a foreign language, of course, whether it's Arabic, Spanish, French, Mandarin, Hindi. It does facilitate effective communication. It does give you a chance to improve your cultural understanding and therefore expanding your outreach as well. It is also essential for diplomacy, for negotiation. If you wish to practice international law, you wish to become a diplomat, an ambassador, being proficient in a foreign language is also extremely important. Another way to build a competitive profile is by taking part in speech and debate competitions or public speaking or, mock trial simulations for law. This teaches you how to express your opinions. It teaches you to challenge your peers' arguments. It challenges you to think on your feet, right? Present solutions that are backed by compelling evidence. And what does compelling evidence mean? Research. So even if you're doing MUN, if you're doing speech and debate, if you're doing public speaking, you are doing a lot of research, which is actually going to help you when it comes to studying these subjects. So Model United Nations is, of course, offered in several schools, and it will make your application a little bit more competitive. But what does matter, of course, is the quality of the kind of Model United Nations you do. So if you're a delegate for one Model United Nations and you never do it again, it's not going to boost your profile too much. Ensure that you are going year after year. If this is truly what you're passionate about, you are moving from being a delegate to a secretary to a chairperson, for example. So that is something you need to be focused on. And of course, the obvious is that Model United Nations helps with your oratory skills, improves your negotiation skills, consensus building, conflict resolution, solution finding, all those keywords. And it's super for networking. So whether you're a lawyer or you're a diplomat or you're in the foreign service, you will need to know how to network and build a network that you can then rely on when you are going about your career challenges. Of course, leadership positions are very helpful. You need to organize, lead initiatives, and by doing so, you show off how you know how to delegate work, how to work in a team, how to communicate well, management skills, in terms of organizing what it is that you're doing, but also time management, because you, as a leader, you're always going to be balancing multiple different priorities and ensuring that none of them are neglected when you're trying to do it all. Okay, so in terms of leadership positions, of course, extremely good would be school government. If you can be part of the student council, vice captain, head girl, head boy, whatever your school has to offer. If this is not available to you, even being the captain of a sports team, it shows leadership skills. So that is also something you can consider. When we're talking about community service and volunteering, with respect to law, politics, international relations, it is important that you have a sort of passion or drive to effect change. So, social justice causes, commitment to civic engagement, it proves that you are really invested in improving the lives of others, advocating for change. So if you are doing community service and volunteering, make sure that it is in this spectrum. And of course, if you're also passionate about the environment or animals, you can do that as well. But whatever else you're doing, make sure you're doing it over a sustained period of time. And again, just not a one-off summer activity, because that does not seem very genuine or authentic. If it is possible, I don't know if many of you are based in India, it is very difficult to get an internship as a 15-year-old, as a 16-year-old, but I do encourage you to tap into your networks, your family networks, and then try and get work experience at a law firm. If that's not possible, then at a legal aid clinic, an NGO, an NPO, an advocacy group as well. You can campaign, you can take part in protests, you can do a political internship if it's possible. I had a student last year who was able to help out on a re-election campaign. She was based in Kenya, but she was part of the constituency in that area. And she developed a lot of skills such as, marketing, advertising, but also implementation of policy and seeing how policy making is actually taken into effect. So if that is something that is available to you, I do strongly encourage that you explore these options. Writing and publishing, also very important. You can write opinion pieces for your own blog if you have one, or for local online publications. If your school has a magazine, perhaps you want to publish over there, or write articles generally as well for your school newspaper or magazine, or maybe perhaps your building or society has an issue that goes out every month. Maybe you want to write in there. Going back to the cultural exchange program, study abroad, you want to try and do an immersive program where you can deepen your understanding of different cultures and of international dynamics, and how these, make a difference in decision making, whether it isn't at the government level or corporate business level. You may also want to, if you have the time, take part in some essay writing competitions. I mean, the PCA team has a lot of resources that they can guide you towards, such as the John Locke essay competition. You may also do immersive programs such as Invest In, you do get a lot of experience, whether online or in person, and there are many benefits other than just becoming more aware of what law, politics, and international relations is. You develop a lot of social skills. You learn how to work with others, to come out of your comfort zone. So any of those sort of programs, if those are available to you, then that is something you want to start exploring as well. Of course, these subjects are extremely competitive. You do need to show academic excellence, and holistically so. So it's not, you want to have good grades across the board. If it is possible, you may want to do a research project, whether with a mentor or independently as well. Perhaps if you're doing the extended essay for the IB, or if you're doing the EPQ for the A levels, you want to go beyond the school requirements and, build on that research further to kind of demonstrate your passion for that subject. Okay, so teamwork and team building activities wherever that is possible as well. Of course, with this field, you need to be reading constantly. You need to be up to date with current affairs, especially legal news, political news, what's going on, what's in the headlines, do online courses as well. If some of the other options are not available to you, an online course is a good way to kind of better understand what it is required to study any of these subjects. Yeah, so that is all from me. So if there are any questions, I think now is the time that you can ask. Nobody has any questions?
I do.
Hi, and you are? Ananya? Evita, do you know who said they have a question?
I think it was Anya, but she's also dropped off just now.
Anya Naik, I see her on my screen. Can wait. Okay, so while we wait for her to come on, I'm just going to talk about how, going back to law being very country specific, as I assume most of you are based in India, if you do plan to practice in India eventually, going to the UK is great because, the United Kingdom is, the British Empire is essentially what kind of influenced the legal system in our country, in India, and it is based on the Commonwealth and on common law as well. However, it has been many years since independence, and so our Indian laws have developed in their own capacity. The acts, the statutes are very different. So while you will get a basic understanding, when you do come back to India, you are going to have to give the All India Bar examination. So that is, it's not a conversion exam per se, it is exam for all the Indian law foundational subjects that you need to study again as well. So that is something you need to be aware of if you are considering studying law in Europe. Language barriers are massive. So unless you're fluent in the country that the language of the country that you wish to study in, perhaps it's not a good idea to consider that either. And in the US, as we mentioned, it is postgraduate, so you have time to make that decision. I'll be right back, Evita.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about anything that Shraddha's talked about? Do you guys want to discuss any sort of community service or leadership, any of those things that were discussed today?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you also talk about law, studying law in the US, like especially, I believe it's a postgraduate thing that you do. So what is the easiest pathways that a child, a student can take if they want to do, say, law eventually, and they want to do it in the US?
Shraddha, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can complete a bachelor's degree in pretty much any major that the child or the student is interested in. It can be related to law studies, but it's not mandatory. Law schools accept all candidates that have finished a bachelor's degree, right? Once you have done that, you have to take the LSAT, which is an official exam that tests your critical thinking and analytical abilities as well. And it's necessary for pursuing a law degree. Now, how well you do on the LSAT will then determine which kind of law school you are admitted to. It's generally 3 years full-time, post-grad, I believe. I do think there is an accelerated program as well, but that is something that we can research and let you know in detail if that is information that you want. Once you have completed what they call the JD, you have to pass the bar exam afterwards. Now, the bar exam is also very state specific, so that is something to be aware of. If you start off in New York and then you want to move to California, you are going to have to give the state exam in that jurisdiction as well. First year law students in the US will take, courses in legal writing, contract, tort, criminal law, all the similar sort of things that I mentioned for the UK. Second year then is, more focused on activities such as law review, moot court, which is, basically mock trials. And I guess I could say that you can look for legal internships between the second and third year. And in the third year, students will often take electives such as international law, immigration law, intellectual property law, and then eventually look for employment at a law firm.
Shraddha, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in and add a couple of things here as well. So people, I would say, while you can't major in law at the undergraduate level, you can take a pre-law minor. That is offered, and I would recommend it if that is something you want to do. So take your major that you want to do in whatever subject that you plan on taking and take a minor in pre-law. They will help you learn everything you need to learn to get you prepared for the LSATs. So then you start developing those skills a little bit early as opposed to sort of studying on your own. And that's just that's a resource that the university offers. So I definitely think that's something that we'd recommend you take advantage of. Otherwise, the student will just have to self-study to get ready for the LSAT. So yeah, you can kind of take whatever you want, but then I would suggest adding in that pre-law minor just to help with any of the additional testing that you have to do.
Okay, and just a follow-up question on that. Say you do law in India, and then you want to do a law degree in the US. Is there a different pathway or you follow the same pathway basically?
You follow the same pathway in the US. So it's generally extremely difficult for foreign trained lawyers to sit the bar exam. You have to study all over again. Most states do require a JD degree for a US law school in order to then sit for the bar exam. There are some states such as New York, California, Alabama, that do allow foreign law graduates to sit the bar exam straight away. And if the state does not require a JD, then foreign educated lawyers can also sit for the state bar exam by getting the law degree reviewed and analyzed by the American Bar Association, the ABA, but this can take a long time. Once reviewed, the application can be accepted or deferred, and if accepted, then you can sit for the bar exam, but you have to do the bar exam of the state in which you wish to practice.
Okay, thank you so much. This is very helpful.
No problem. So in New York, I think it's one of the jurisdictions, obviously, that is the most open to foreign lawyers. So I think if you were considering it, I think that would be the first state perhaps to look at, because you're not forced to then complete law in any other law school in the US. You can just sit the bar exam.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else with questions? I will also mention, Deepa, I don't know if you're interested, but in the UK, it is very much easier to kind of do law there. You can have an undergraduate degree from any other country and any other subject, as long as it's recognized, and then go on to do a law conversion course, which is about nine months to a year to kind of get your LLB. And then, I mean, there have recently been a lot of changes in the UK with regards to becoming a solicitor. It's called the SQE, the Solicitor's Qualifying Examination. Again, if this is something you're interested in, you can reach out to the team, and a separate information session can be set up for all of that information.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is very helpful. Thanks.
Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any other questions. Does anyone have any questions about, we talked about MUNs and, internships? Anyone have questions about that? Or are we saving them for our counselors later in the week? But if there are no more questions, thank you, Shraddha, for taking time out to have this session with us. I hope everyone, learned a lot from the session. And if you guys do have any other questions, please just ask your consultant. We are happy to get Shraddha on a separate call if you guys want any additional clarification, or we have some more in-depth personal questions for you guys, and we can definitely get that figured out. Yeah, Naisha.
Hi, sorry, I missed the first bit of the call. So is there any way I could get the slides emailed to me by any chance?
You get a recording, Naisha. A recording of every session will be sent, so don't worry about that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Great. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a good evening, and please join. I believe tomorrow is the medicine call. So if any of you guys are also interested in medicine as well, definitely look forward to that as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.